Party people. Ain't none of you here. Hey, welcome today. Still, as always, so extremely grateful for this community and this ability to work in this instance. It's just such a blessing, and it's such an amazing journey for anyone who wants to do this work. It's the fact that you just can, and you just should. That's it. Let's go ahead and dive into our great things. This is where we reflect on the great things that we've done from the day before, from the morning, from wherever, right? And I think for me, my great thing, I think I woke up at like 3 a.m. this morning and I had this thought in my head that just completely absorbed and woke up every morsel of my body. And it was this realization that I am craving depth, and I'm wanting to tap into the deeper instances of my artistry, of my creativeness, and it's not a side that I've been comfortable tapping into, and I almost find it laughable when I talk to people about this ability, about wanting to explore this ability to create and to really tap into that. And in order to do that, I have to start changing the way that I talk about it, because I'm still laughing at myself. It's kind of like, oh, you're not really an artist, but that's cute. Okay, let's not talk. And, I think as I look to explore this, there is a need for me to start connecting with more artists and more creatives in this space, and I'm working to do that, and I am doing some of that work. But I think before I can start reaching out to those people, I have to adjust my mindset with how I reference my own artistry, because and my friend was such a great mirror for me last week, and we actually recorded a women's empowerment episode, which will be featured Wednesday. It'll be a bonus episode that drops in there. I'm so excited to bring that to you. But I was talking to my friend after we recorded the podcast, and I had this moment where I'm talking about the podcast and how we've grown and what we're doing, and she's just like, that's amazing, and you did that. And I'm like, well, it probably doesn't mean anything, blah 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 blah. And she's like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and shut that one off. I'm gonna shut you down. You did this. Not a lot of people would go and do what you were doing. This is a big deal. You have to start recognizing yourself for that, right? And it's funny because it's true. And I had gotten so used to kind of dumbing it down, especially with, and I wrote about this last week, especially with people who didn't understand what I was talking about. Right? And a lot of the people that I do talk to don't. And so that kind of blank face look when you get really excited and pumped up and you're sharing everything that you know to a person who has no idea, that doesn't mean you're wrong, right? And so I had just gotten so used to delicately removing myself from those uncomfortable situations by playing down the importance of what I was talking about and how crazy it was, right? And so that's how I would reference it. Yeah, we've grown. This is what we're doing, blah, 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 blah. And I keep going and I keep expanding, and then I get that blank face look, and then I take it all back. And I'm like, but, it's not a big deal. Everybody podcasts anymore. And I realize that, that growth isn't crazy, and never mind, right? And my friend was just such a blessing of a mirror, and I have been toying with this thought that I escape and go ahead and try to remove myself from everything and try to find that depth and try to create that depth and that journey for myself so I can tap in and really start writing. And this morning at 3 a.m., I was woken up with this thought: you're avoiding depth that you could be having. And I'm like, okay, we're going to have to spend some time with that one. That one was a heavy hitter, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. All right, we'll think about that one. And I just like sit straight up. Thinking like, why? You're so right. And it's so obnoxious. But here we are, right? And how does one do that? How does one avoid depth? And depth is so scary, and yet as an artist and as a creator, it's so vital that I tap into that, right? So then we don't just come surface level here, and we really dive into what this becomes as it continues to advance. But like yesterday, I had gotten done with our episode, and I'm like, I don't know who that helped, right? I don't know if that was quality content. And I left my job in order to be able to really dive in, really expand, really create depth, and be able to tap in fully and not worry about anything, right? Just create my art. And this morning, that wake up call, that realization that we aren't really any deeper than where we were, and you really need to start exploring that. And so my great thing really was just waking up with that wake up call and starting to explore what that means and where I am tapping out. And I had the realization this morning, and it's the same as what we've been talking about the things that I use as crutches to avoid deepness, right? To avoid that depth, that deeper level. And so my great thing was just waking up and having this realization that I'm pretty much avoiding it. I'm avoiding all of it. Yay! Go me! And that's really smart for me, considering I pretty much left my job in order to stop avoiding it, in order to dig in deeper. But, that's all a part of it. That's a part of not having it all figured out yet. And if I've done anything, it's promise you that I'm going to shoot you straight and bring you what I'm feeling right in the moment. So this morning, and probably for a continued time, probably into the rest of time, we're going to be exploring depth, exploring the reality of who we want to be and how we want to show up in this world. And, I come at it in so many different ways, depth. But okay, let's wrap on the great thing. Come on. Do you even know the structure of your own show, Hannah? Dang it. Okay, we're going to wrap on the great thing. Take time today to recognize yourself for your great thing. I'm telling you, it's going to change your life. I wouldn't just say that. Seriously, it will. And it will lead to the reawakening of self, right? And self-pride and self-improvement and just slay all day, all day, all day, all day. Okay? Come on. Let's wake her back up. Where did that amazing woman go? We need her. In this world, we need you. Right? And we need you to believe at the deepness, at the deepest level of your soul, that you were put here to do something, and that you add greatness to this world, wherever you're at. Right? Okay. That's our great thing. Take time. Just do it. Just try it. Just try it today, I'm telling you. Just write it down. Scribble it down somewhere on a piece of paper. Crumple it up, throw it away, eat it. I don't care what you do with it, but just try it. Okay? So, the exploration of depth. Man, I love when we come up with some bougie titles. I love it. Ugh. And I used to, in the exploration of what this podcast would become, it really has gone down so many different avenues, so many different ideas and structures, and boom, and we're still actively pursuing what this would become. And that's pretty much the funnest portion of this artistry, right? Is that you and I are creating this together. We're coming up with the content. We're coming up with where we go. We really are growing together, growing through this movement together. And so today we're talking about depth, and it woke me up. And depth, I love going deep into things, but this is where I get lost and I get scared. There's this underlying fear constantly within my mind that things are going to go bad, right? And I don't know that I'm scared of the pain. I'm scared of the discomfort of that. And in that discomfort, I choose to stay very surface level with a lot of things, and I choose to avoid depth. And so how that's impacting my work right now is, now that I've gifted myself this ability to explore the depth in which we want to create, right? Now that I've given myself that gift, I'm going to go ahead and avoid it at all costs, because on the other side of that, if we dive in, if we give it our all, if we really start to embrace that we're an artist, that we belong in this space, that we are capable and needed and necessary, and we belong here, on the other side of that has the potential to be very painful, right? I might realize that I'm not supposed to be. I might realize that I'm not good at this. I might realize that I'm not connecting with my audience. I might realize that I've taken myself to a space where I'm not good. And I might realize more than anything that this is not space meant for me, even though I want it to be. Oh, just even saying those words kind of took the breath out of me a little bit. Ouch, that one hurt. Just saying, okay? And so, what have I been doing to avoid that? Pretty much everything, but I will say a lot of my depth capture, my depth avoidance comes in the form of social media. And hey, guess what? This gal right here actually did a couple podcasts, maybe an entire week of podcasts on the importance of curbing your social media addiction, because that's how it's built, right? It's built to continually feed to that insecurity, to that need to be needed. And so I had taken this need to be needed, and that looked like a regular 9 to 5. That looked like projects and emails and a constant stream of being needed from 9 to 5. And when I left that, there was this huge void, and that took a while to recover from. And part of that recovery process looked like me tapping into the world of social media, because there's no better place to find and tap into your depth than heading on over to the place where everyone lives their best life all the time. Great way to tap into the deepness, feeling, the creation process. Oh, I'm sorry, I was being completely sarcastic. And more than that, more than this not being a place where my artistry can be kind of cultivated and grown, right? And social media is such a beautiful gift to the world in the way that it allows you to kind of piece together what you want the world to look like. But was it adding to my artistry? Was it adding to my depth? Was it adding to my interpretation? No. More than that, it really was allowing me to stay surface levels in many instances, right? Because how many times do you need rescued from an uncomfortable situation, or need to look like you're busy, or need to just tap out? And I am fine. I am perfectly fine with social media being used as a means to relax, right? And to reconnect and to do all of those things. When you're using it like I was, and I was really using it was as if I'm going to heal myself today and never use it again. I was really using it as a form of, I don't know if rescue is the right word, but that seems like it. You know, I have been very conscious and very public about my inability to navigate this flawlessly. Navigate this new portion of my life, navigate this new window. And that's, I think, why I was using social media and my phone as something that was going to kind of rescue me. So that when I went really deep in those feelings, I could instantly tap out. And I could go there and I could shop and I could connect. And I don't even know that I'm that active, but I would just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. And it gave me this feeling of existence again. Right? And what a sad way to exist. To only really exist there. And oh man, this has hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'm exploring it in real time with you. I woke up at 3 with this realization. I made myself sit with it. I consciously pulled myself away from the phone 3 times, even after having this realization. And so, excuse me, because we'll probably continue to expand the rest of the week, but I am coming to you with my real reaction to this realization. So bear with me. We're going to get there, I promise. So I'm using it to tap out, right? I'm using it to pick up my phone every 2 seconds. I'm pretending that people need me there and they don't. And honestly, that the notification needs to be seen right now. It doesn't. Right? And so what I need to do and how I need to rebalance myself, because I was looking for my phone to fill that gap, right? Whereas it had been food, whereas it had been shopping, whereas it had been all these things. Now that I wasn't allowing myself to escape in those ways, I had to find new ways, right? And that's how addictions work. You don't just say, okay, I'm going to stop smoking, and then you just stop all bad habits, right? Usually you fill with a new addiction. And so my new addiction looked like scrolling. Oh my gosh, right? And so then I'm telling myself that you need to find depth, you need to find depth, you need to really tap into the creative side of writing, of exploring where you want to take this art, right? And it's hard for me to even think of podcasting as an art, but it is. This is my trait. This is what I do. right? And so where am I taking this art and how do I further develop and tap into this work? And as I realized and recognized one addiction and pulled myself back from those two things being an escape, I would pull myself quickly into a new one. And this one seemed less offensive because, and I love to pick addictions that are accepted. Right? I would never do drugs, and I would never drink excessive amounts of alcohol, and I would never do those things that are frowned on. Okay? Never. And so, since I didn't do those things, I was good, right? Right, that's the problem, right? And so, food was an addiction that nobody would really embrace or recognize or call out for me. So was shopping, but that's so readily acceptable, especially as a young women with children. We're all supposed to have shopping addictions, right? That's just the funny cat and mouse game of marriages, of being a young adult, being a young female adult. That's supposed to be the only thing that I'm into, right? That's my extracurricular. And it's fine for people who A, can afford that, and B, enjoy that for a purpose, right? I just enjoyed shopping for this need to experience happiness because it happened so much faster there. Right? It was so much easier. It was so much surface level work. It was just easier to exist there for me. And so as soon as I started calling those things out, I created this new sub addiction. This would be known as my phone. And like my other addictions, food and shopping, phone addiction is also very normal. And so no one's really going to call you out on it, except for my children. Instantly, they get it, especially because I don't allow them to tap out in that way, right? So they're like, you're on your phone a lot. And the crazier thing is, as I started to transition to my phone, my experiences with my kids transitioned to more of an electronic relationship too, because I want to consciously tap out from the depth of all the experiences because I don't want to feel them fully. And so I'm going to allow them to tap out too. And here you go. Here is a TV show. Here is whatever, right? And I need the break. And so I'm going to give them something I know will draw their attention to allow myself the break. And I think this is something that we all struggle with, right? That need to be seen, that need to be valued. And I think for women specifically, it comes with this beautiful ability that we all have to exist in many instances. And I'm creating a second podcast and working on the drawing up of it right now, but I think so many times we wear so many different hats throughout the day that it's hard to tap into and be present where we are. And the premise of the next podcast, of another podcast that I'm going to host, really is in this ability to speak to women as they exist and not continue to speak to them in ways that just blankets the entirety of the experience. Well, if you're a mom and a professional and all these things and you try to just cram it all in, like, I want to break it down. Here's what it looks like to do this as a mom. Here's what it looks like to navigate this as a significant other. Here's what this looks like to navigate this as a professional, and stop just sugarcoating and cramming it all together. There is so much depth that goes into operating as a woman in this world that I wish we would stop blanketing the conversations. And yet, here I am, right? But I think it comes with the tapping of us being present in those moments. And I was picking up a new addiction to allow me to stay surface level. And this is something I struggle with. I'm scared to go deep. I'm scared that there's hurt there. I'm scared to even love my kids too much, right? I don't want that pain, right? And so since I have this fear, then I also have this need to fill that gap, to fill that fear, to stay surface level because it's safer there. And so that depth that I was looking for, the depth that I was going to create if I just left it all and I gave myself a weekend at some cabin somewhere and I just let it flow, really isn't depth that I can't find here. It's depth that I'm not willing to give myself here. Right? I don't want it. Honestly, it scares me. First, I would have to embrace that I'm an artist. Yikes. That seems like such a bold statement to make about myself. Right? But I have to start going there. That is, in fact, what I am. And so I'm allowed to talk about it, think about it, dive in, create that way. I'm allowed to. And I need to start giving myself that room. But I think I was avoiding it because of the fear of saying that thing, of acknowledging that I'm an artist, of acknowledging that this is my craft, of claiming that stake, of really putting that stake in the ground and saying that this is what I am. And I have done that in superficial ways. It's funny because the only place where I really announced it is on social media. And I think that was just to exist and have this hopeful interpretation of what it would mean if people knew that I was this thing. Right? Maybe it would produce significance. And maybe it wouldn't. But maybe it would. And so, oh my gosh, in that, this moment, when I woke up today and I just realized that I was actively avoiding depth, it hit me. You can't dive in because you don't want to. Right? I think sometimes we're avoiding it because we know that it's going to take us to that next level. And we're scared. And I'm scared. I'm scared of the next level. I don't know what it'll turn into. I don't know how it'll develop and how it'll all end up working out. And that scares and excites me. But more scares. And I think just the scary part of it is that I might end up in the same place I was a year ago, where I realized that these aren't the things that I want. And I hope not. But I think, truth be told, we've navigated that before. And so let's go ahead and continue down that path. And I think we've done enough self-work over this last year for me to feel better about the work that we're doing. And to feel more in depth and more tapped into it, but we're only just starting to dive in, right? And I have to continue the exploration of that depth and of where we're going and of how we get there. And that's my job as the artist. And I apologize for not going there yet, but we're going to get there. Okay? That's all that we have today. Wow, look at us go. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.